Hello everyone, welcome back to Review and Rate. Today, we're entering into a world of nuclear wastelands and secret organizations. That's right, we're going to watch a big explosion and deal with certain people to talk about Fallout 4, a game developed by Bethesda and released in 2015. If you're a fan of action-adventure RPGs, amazing combat, and memorable soundtracks, you won't want to miss this review. Now, let's take down this flying object and get ready to enter the world of Fallout 4. The gameplay of Fallout 4 is really great, but does have some problems, mainly related to technical issues. Just like previous Fallout games, Fallout 4 continues with the same designed world map, where you discover new locations, have conversations with characters, gather weapons and outfits, and manage an inventory system. When your inventory reaches its maximum capacity, you become overloaded, which I didn't like, as I mentioned in my review of Fallout New Vegas. You can also fight and kill enemies throughout the world. The radiation system has been changed so that radiation lowers your maximum health until it eventually kills you. I prefer the system in New Vegas, where the radiation was separate from your health. One improvement though is that you can now run using a stamina bar. This helps when traveling around long distances, even though the stamina decreases very quickly. Items can now be picked up quickly instead of having to open everything whenever you want to get something from a container or another location. This is a great improvement, as it makes exploration faster and much more enjoyable. Conversations with characters now have them talking without the camera focusing on the characters you are speaking to, which makes the conversations harder to focus on. You have certain choices that affect your relationships with certain factions and characters, similar to New Vegas, and you can choose which factions to side with depending on who you help. However, Fallout 4 is not as freedom based as New Vegas, as you really can't kill whichever characters you want, so it's weaker in that area. Healing is now slower, which is really annoying, especially in a fast paced game like this. There are many times where I got killed while trying to use stim packs to heal myself. The level up system is good, but I prefer the one we had in New Vegas because it was much simpler. The one here looks more confusing. You also have a new feature where you can build things in certain locations you own, such as Sanctuary or Vault 88. While it's an interesting feature, I don't find myself using it very often unless a mission forces me to. It's cool, but I don't find it that engaging. Especially when many missions force you to do these building activities, it starts to feel annoying, as you have to search for certain materials in order to build those things. But the best thing about Fallout 4, and the thing that's much better here than in New Vegas, is the combat. The shooting has been greatly improved, as I am having much more fun killing enemies here than I did in New Vegas. The hit detection has also been improved. Now, when you shoot an enemy outside of their armor, your shots actually affect them properly instead of somehow hitting their armor like they did in New Vegas. Your hits feel much more impactful, which makes the combat very engaging. You also have these heavy weapons that you can use against stronger enemies. I mean, look at how I took down that flying machine with this amazing Gatling laser weapon. It's very awesome. In my playthrough, I took down the Brotherhood of Steel base, and it was very fun taking down all of these heavily armored enemies using all of the amazing weapons I had gathered. Now, the enemy AI is not very good at times, as enemies can act in very idiotic ways whenever their paths get blocked or when you are far away from them. I took down many enemies simply by outsmarting the AI, which is similar to how stupid the AI can sometimes act in New Vegas. However, when the enemies are dangerous, the AI can be pretty good. But the biggest problem with the game is the technical issues. These problems happen much more often here than they did in New Vegas, and they are really annoying. There are issues like crashes, of course, as well as certain glitches, such as your character getting stuck in certain locations and forcing you to replay from your last save. There are also times when the game's sound suddenly stops playing, such as when you fall from high places. Characters can also interrupt and talk over each other like complete morons, which ruins the story for me because I sometimes can't clearly hear what the characters are saying. It's very annoying.
It's a full-time job to keep our little community
But
afloat.
someone's got to do it.
If you'll excuse me.
I sort of had the same question. It's just, with everything that's happened with you and your family, it's a whole hell of a lot to process. I wanted to make sure you're holding up all right. You're a tougher nut than I thought. Tougher than I was. Took me a long damn time to get a feel for this place. Thank goodness I found Diamond City. It's got its flaws, sure, but it beats the hell out of anywhere else in the Commonwealth. Of course, when I took up there back when, people were just as scared of the Institute as they are now.
There are also some other problems, such as music playing at the wrong times, like when characters are talking, which can make it difficult to hear what they are saying because of the loud music.
Proposing surgery. Not just any surgery. Facial reconstruction surgery. Safe and instantaneous. New eye color.
Another problem is the loading screens. At certain locations, the game takes a very long time to load, which becomes extremely annoying for a game that's this fast paced. Now let's talk about the story. The story of Fallout 4 is good, certainly not as great as New Vegas, and does have a few problems. I like the story of seeing your son get kidnapped and then setting out to find him and search for him in this huge world. The Institute was a cool addition to the story, and the mystery surrounding them as a secret organization that no one can reach unless they have a teleportation device was interesting. Their motivations also felt genuine, which made them an interesting faction to learn about. And just like New Vegas, we also have different factions here, and I enjoyed learning about each of them. Each faction has different goals and interesting perspectives. They are not as good as the factions in New Vegas, but they are interesting nonetheless. The characters here are great as well, with the most interesting ones being Nick, Valentine and Piper. Having them as companions throughout the game was very enjoyable. However, where the problem arises is that it doesn't make much sense that in this huge world, you are heavily focused on urgently finding your son. Yet you can spend hours doing other side quests and essentially waste time instead of continuing the search. It just feels weird, especially when comparing it to finding out who shot you in New Vegas. That plot made more sense even when you were doing other things throughout the game. In my playthrough, I met Sean, my character's son, who had grown up because my character was frozen, meaning he was older than my character and was living in the Institute. I decided to help the Institute because I felt like I had to help him because he is my character's son. Sean tells me to wipe out the Institute's enemies, so I take out the Railroad and the Brotherhood of Steel. Then, Sean reveals that he is suffering from terminal cancer, so he dies peacefully while you become his successor. Sean tells everyone that you will become the director of the Institute after him, and then the game ends with a speech from your character to the people in the Institute, deciding what you will have in store for the future. It feels like an emotionally strong but ultimately weak ending, as the game doesn't really explain what happened to the Commonwealth as a result of your decisions, unlike New Vegas, which explains the consequences of your choices much better. Now let's talk about the graphics. The graphics of Fallout 4 are slightly better than New Vegas, which means they are good and okay at the same time. The art direction and atmosphere are good. Just like New Vegas, Fallout 4 gives you the feeling that you are really in a world affected by nuclear war. Everything around you, including the environments, destroyed buildings, and cities that were built after the war, helps create that feeling, and it all looks good. The weather during the day, at night, or during radiation storms also creates a strong sense of atmosphere and makes you feel like you are actually there. I can also see that there's much more color variety than in New Vegas, and the places you visit are detailed and look different from one another, which makes exploring the world more enjoyable. However, while all of that is great, some of the visuals certainly are not as good. The character models, for example, definitely look better than the ones in New Vegas, but they still aren't very good, especially when compared to other games released in 2015. Their animations are also very stiff and look weird, especially when you see characters talking and moving around. It looks ugly and funny at the same time. And just like New Vegas, enemies attack you in very strange ways, and their animations can also make them look funny instead of intimidating. And of course, the graphics are very outdated compared to today's standards, especially with Bethesda still using that same old creation engine in Fallout 4. Everything just doesn't look visually strong when compared to how games look today. Now let's move on to the sound. The sound design of Fallout 4 is really amazing. The voice acting is strong, as every character does a great job sounding natural and believable whenever they speak, especially your character, who now has a voice unlike the silent protagonist in New Vegas. The ambient sounds whenever you are exploring the Commonwealth are also amazing, as you can really feel like you are actually there when you are wandering around at any time of the day. The weapon sounds are also great, and you can really feel the impact of your weapons when they hit enemies. Whenever you kill an enemy, it feels very satisfying, and this is certainly one of the reasons why the combat is so amazing in this game. The creature sounds are also intimidating whenever you encounter them or fight them, which makes some of the enemies feel much more threatening. And the best thing about the audio in Fallout 4 is of course the soundtrack and music. The music used during battles, emotional scenes, or when the main epic theme plays all sounds fantastic and memorable. Here, listen to them. Now let's move on to the final section, which is replayability. When it comes to replayability, there's a huge amount of content that you could spend hours doing. After finishing the main story, you can still complete all the side quests, explore new locations, kill enemies, level up to the maximum level, collect materials, build more things around the settlements you have, and collect weapons, ammunition, and outfits in order to play the game in many different ways. Also, if you want, you can replay the game from the last save before making an important choice and choose to side with a different faction instead. This allows you to help another faction and experience a different ending each time. What's different here from New Vegas is that after finishing the main story, you can still continue doing everything after the story ends, unlike how New Vegas gets you to restart from the last save before the Battle of Hoover Dam if you want to continue doing everything before the ending. Here in Fallout 4, you can finish the main game and still get to do things afterward, which is better in my opinion. You can also try the DLCs that are included with the game, which offer new worlds to explore and different missions to complete, which is pretty cool. Of course, I can't say that Fallout 4 is more replayable than New Vegas, because it really isn't, especially since New Vegas gives you much more freedom in how you approach each playthrough. Still, Fallout 4 manages to keep me spending many hours into it, especially because the combat is much better here. Now let's summarize everything with my overall impression. Fallout 4 delivers great gameplay, a good story, somewhat good graphics, amazing sound design, and a huge amount of replay value. While it does have some problems, mainly related to technical issues that can ruin many parts of the game, as well as its outdated visuals, these issues don't take away from how fun I had playing this game, especially with the amazing combat and exploration that this game offers. I spent many hours having fun with this game, and I am sure there are plenty more hours I can spend playing it while still discovering new things I haven't found yet. It's not as good as New Vegas, so it deserves a lower score than that game, but still not very much lower, and it still deserves an amazing score. Here it is. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful review videos. Feel free to share your thoughts on whether the points I've raised resonate with you or if you have a different perspective. And leave your suggestions in the comments about which game you'd like to see reviewed next. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you all for watching.